After the battlefield, our wounded face new challenges. Life is not always easy. It takes extraordinary determination and courage. Every day, we witness their resolve. Walking with the Wounded is increasing awareness of these remarkable young men and women. By raising funds to retrain and re-educate our wounded, we assist them in finding employment beyond the armed forces. In 2012, a group of our wounded soldiers will demonstrate this amazing resolve. They will show that despite adversity, they can step forward and push themselves further. They will take on a journey few have ever conquered. It is the height of human endeavor. Its peak is the roof of the world. To reach its summit, you must overcome extreme altitude, precarious ledges, fatal drops, immense fatigue, unpredictable weather, and your own fear. At 29,000 feet, life can hang by a thread. Only the most determined will succeed. This year, support the Walking with the Wounded team as they take on Everest.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us for what should be a very special event where we're going to link up live with the Walking with the Wounded team from Everest Base Camp. They'll be talking about their experiences on Everest and joining us here for a tasting of Glenfiddich's finest whiskies. First, let me introduce the four wise men that I'm joined by here in the studio. Immediately on my left, we have Ed Parker. And one space away, we've got Simon Daglish, and they're the founders of the Walking with the Wounded charity. We've also got Jamie Milne, who we're assured is an expert on Glenfiddich whisky. And at the end there, we've got Mark Thomson, who's an expert on tasting whisky generally. It promises to be an exciting show. Over the next 45 minutes or so, we'll be attempting to connect live to Everest and to the Glenfiddich Pioneers and the Walking with the Wounded team in the Glenfiddich yurt, which is a yurt that was donated by Glenfiddich for the expedition. Like anything pioneering, the broadcast is pushing the boundaries in terms of satellite technology, special feeds, live link-ups, all the good stuff. We're keeping our fingers crossed that it's going to work. Otherwise, it's going to be 45 minutes of 5 men drinking whiskey in a studio. It's now 11:45 at night in Nepal. So we're going to roll into the live whiskey tasting in just a moment. But first, turning to you, Ed, can you just describe for us what the support of Glenfiddich has actually meant for this expedition?
Yeah, it's really important for us to fund our expeditions with corporate support. We don't want people who are generously donating to the charity to feel they're funding the expeditions. We've got education and training programs that we're funding that we use that for. And this time, Glenfiddich they've been a fantastic partner, covering some very extensive costs that we have with an expedition such as this.
Because it's not cheap, this, is it? It's a hostile environment. You've got to make sure everything's done safely, I imagine.
No, it's not cheap, and it's absolutely crucial that we provide safety for our team, and so we do have to do it absolutely 5-star. And Glenfiddich have been a really ideal partner for us.
Excellent. And Simon?
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate really what Ed said, and I know it's easy to stand here and say, well, we're here with the sponsor, aren't they great? But in reality, they've been absolutely fantastic, really, really supportive of everything we wanted to do, and then come up with their own ideas, which is fantastic. And also, not unsurprisingly, there was a great affiliation between the Mountaineers and the brand itself. There was a large cheer went up when we said...
I can imagine a lifelong affiliation between those Mountaineers. If somebody get you up a mountain, it's a bottle of whiskey,
and indeed
isn't it?
the founders.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Well, thanks very much, chaps. More of that later. But first, let's find out a little bit about Glenfiddich.
William Grant knew that his independence meant he could retain complete control of his whisky making. And that determination and vision has today led to a unique family of single malts that have been aged to perfection.
Now, I'm the wrong man to be talking you through fine whiskies and indeed the tasting process, but happily we've got Jamie here and we've got Mark. So, chaps, what have we got and what's the tasting process?
Okay, what we have are 4 Glenfiddich single malt whiskies. We're going to start with the 12-year-old. Now, this is the signature style of Glenfiddich. It's the one that I'm sure everyone in the room and probably everyone at home watching as well, if they've tasted a Glenfiddich, it's probably this one. So we always start with that. What we then move on to is an 18-year-old, the bigger brother. Now this one, it is 6 extra years in the cask, made in smaller batches, slightly richer taste, which Simon already commented on while we were warming up earlier.
He was very enthusiastic about that.
He was, wasn't he? He was.
Very professional, I thought.
Yeah. Then we're going to skip back a few years, and I like to mix things up a little bit because it isn't all about age. Age is one of the factors when you're making whiskey, but what we like to do at Glenfiddich, although we have 125 years of heritage and tradition at the company, we're always looking for new innovations. And this next one, the 15-year-old, really exemplifies that. Made in a completely unique way. There's no other distillery makes whiskey like we make the 15-year-old.
And what is unique about the 15-year-old?
What's unique about it? Well, it's using different cask types. So as well as bourbon and sherry casks, which we use for the first two, the 12 and the 18, we're also using brand new, unused American oak casks, and that adds an extra honey note to the whiskey, which will come through when we get to this one. But that's only part of the story with this. So there's 3 types of casks going into it. Then it all gets mixed together in a large 37,000 litre wooden Solera vat. So when we get onto this one, you'll taste the benefit of that. So that's 3 of the 4 whiskies. The one we'll finish with is a 19-year-old, and this is fairly new to the UK market, age of discovery, 19-year-old Madeira cask finish, just absolutely.
Is there
stunning
something that
whiskey.
happens between 18 years old and 19 years old that means you get a solid gold box, and that looks a lot more special than that?
Well, what we've done with this is we're trying to create a completely different flavour by using different casks. So it's not just about the extra year. The flavour's going to be different. The age is 1 year different, but that's almost unimportant. It's the flavour that you're getting from it. And the packaging, well, you know, since the early 1960s, Glenfiddich was the very, very first malt to be marketed to the world as a single malt. And we've always understood that packaging plays a really important part of that. Green triangular bottle, no one else has that.
No,
it's true. Iconic.
Doesn't roll off ledges when you're sleeping on them.
So
that's a great design thing.
So that's the whiskies that we're going to be tasting, but I'll pass over to Mark to maybe introduce us to how we'll be tasting.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. It's great, you know, range to go through, and certainly a number of different flavours. But what I wanted to highlight is one of the things I find quite important, which is to get people tasting whiskey in a really fun and proper way. There is a technique. These glasses, as you'll notice, are a bit different from what you'd probably have at home. Not the sort of heavyweight tumbler. Slightly smaller. You can refill them as you wish, but for a proper professional tasting as we're doing today, these glasses are ideal. There's a few key design features with them. But you know, one of the things to do that a lot of people struggle with whiskey tasting and approaching whiskies for the first time, or any spirit really, is that almost overpowering alcohol at the start. It really kind of takes hold, it grips, it's drying, and it's, some would say, not a very pleasant experience. What we normally do is, you know, bring a glass up slowly to the nose, have a nice smell of it, kind of don't stick your beak right in it, because all you'll do is draw in quite a lot of alcohol in there, and it's not going to be fantastic to start with. So just very gently rolling the glass around, bringing it up and down to the face. And once you're kind of comfortable with the smell, then a slightly longer smell will give the sort of note. But actually, it's quite difficult to get anything other. We're not expecting you to spout forth poetic notes now.
I'm already very comfortable with the smell.
Yeah,
by the way.
well, it's definitely whiskey in the glass, that's for sure. There's no doubt about it. Now, a lot of people do different things with whiskey tasting. You know, some people you see pour it in their hand and rub it together, have a smell, burn the alcohol off, and then some even rub it on the top of their heads afterwards. But I can tell you three have been doing that maybe a bit too much now.
Cheap shot.
Yeah,
Cheap shot.
I've never done that. But what we're going to do is take a sip first and kind of get our palates introduced. This isn't you drinking whiskey now. We're going to take a sip. Let that roll around your palate. Really introduce, yeah, give it a good chew. That's what you want to do with it. Get it all around.
Can I have another?
You can have another, yeah. Feel free.
Just a sip.
And then a good technique is to actually blow out through the nose. And that also coats the whole palate and the nasal passages with alcohol and the lovely flavours there. Now you'll see it's drying if this is your first whiskey of today. Yes. Of course it is. Yes, tingly. It's drying. It's almost like peppery. That's the alcohol kind of taking over and it's almost masking the flavour of the whiskey. Now once that's subsided, now you can actually taste the whiskey. And this is the mouthful now that says, this is what I am and this is where the flavour comes from. So if you take another smell of that, it'll actually have changed.
Yeah, it has. It's changed a lot.
There's a lot more to
It's
it now.
subtle. The alcohol's died down slightly, and what you're left with is actually the aroma of the age of the whiskey, the flavours, the character that's in there. What's even more surprising is the flavour as you drink it. You don't need to swirl it around too much this time. What you'll find is it's actually much fuller. It fills and coats the palate, and there's none of that spiciness that you mentioned.
There's a softness to it now, isn't it?
It's richer, it's creamier, it's smoother. There's that sort of assertiveness of the alcohols calmed down, and now what's most apparent are those after flavours. This now, as we sit here and talk, and I'm sure as we talk through the day, it'll start to pick up. You'll start to get different flavours coming through.
Those are the subtleties, aren't they?
That's
It's not about the alcohol, is it, actually, good whiskey tasting?
Absolutely not. It's all about, in fact, the guys at base camp will actually be spitting the whiskey out. It's a bit tricky to be consuming at that altitude. But they'll still get the same experience of those flavours, after flavours, and the sort of coating in the
Mark,
mouth.
to my lingering regret, I'm going to have to cut you off there because one of the extraordinary things about this whole process is what we've got here in the studio has actually been replicated at Expedition Base Camp. And obviously to do that, the whiskey had to undergo a remarkable journey. And so let's have a little look at that journey.
Walking for a couple of hours now, all the way uphill, and we turned a corner not long ago and got our first view of Everest, and it was incredible. It was absolutely amazing.
It's all inspiring. Feeling great.
A great day today, walking with the Glenfiddich Pioneers. First view of Everest over there. Can't believe we're actually going to be up there in a Glenfiddich yurt with a nosing and tasting of the Glenfiddich.
The trek so far has been absolutely fantastic. Beautiful scenery. We stopped at a village down below. We had a game of football with the children. They were absolutely fantastic.
The scenery is absolutely beautiful. The sun is shining. It's a beautiful, clear blue sky. Clouds over the mountains. Absolutely amazing.
So, hello Everest, this is London calling. Can you hear us? They've drunk all the whiskey. Stony side. Ah, there they are, there they are. Hello chaps, how are you doing? Few problems with the audio, but can you hear us? Emily, Roger, Dave and Stuart, are you picking us up? Good, good. You look very happy and content with your whiskey there, I must say.
I have to say, A lot of people
Yeah,
think I
consent.
have one of the best jobs in the world, but I am now very envious. These people have been allowed to trek to base camp, which is on my bucket list.
Yeah.
And they're there not only at base camp, they're also enjoying some fantastic whiskey.
Yeah.
So it is considerably warmer here, though.
It is. Well, yeah,
that's true.
I don't know, up at Dufftown today, I think the forecast was for freezing, so I'm not sure it's that much colder.
Well, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to go straight to Emily, Roger, Dave and Stuart, who've done a heck of a job getting there. It's a 10-day journey, isn't it? And they only got there this morning.
Yeah.
So they're going to be feeling the altitude and all that. So we've only got a few minutes. So Mark and Jamie, if you want to talk them through the tasting process
Very quickly.
and see if the altitude makes a difference.
Well, I think the altitude will certainly make a difference, but the temperature will make a difference as well, because the flavours that they get in the whisky could well be different to what we have in the warm studio here. So guys, have you got your Glenfiddich 12-year-old there? Grab that. Have a bit of a smell.
Can we go too?
Yes,
of course.
I'm sorry, God, no.
And what you find with the 12-year-old, it's really fresh, fruity. It is youthful, and I wouldn't describe it as light. It's more sort of medium-bodied, but fresh pear. Really nice, fresh pear, fresh apple, those sorts of fruity flavours. Have a bit of a taste in that. And I just love the warming effect, and I'm sure you're enjoying that as well at base camp. Mark, do you want to pick up on the next one?
Yeah, so the next one is the 18, as Jamie mentioned earlier, a few years on, the big brother of the 12. Guys, if you want to get that one in your hands there, you'll see, you should be able to see a slightly different colour in there, slightly richer colour, deeper, and that's from not only a little bit longer in the cask, but a little bit more of the sherry cask that's been married in. So on the nose, much richer, much deeper flavours that you're getting there from the sort of lively, fresh fruits that Jamie was talking about. It's moved more into a deeper baked apple, fig type note in there, sort of plummy, deep red fruit. But there's still a lovely amount of fresh wood in there and a light spice, a cinnamony kind of nutmeg. It's great balance, and on the palate it'll just continue through. So Slange.
Guys, what can you taste? We're talking away here. What can you taste?
Chaps, unfortunately, we can't hear you, so perhaps the best thing you can do is if you can show how you feel about the 18-year-old Glenfiddich with gestures. So how was that? Was that good? That's good.
They've all got thumbs still.
Very good.
The medium of interpretive dance.
Yeah, well done. And which one did you prefer? Was it the 12 or the 18? So if I say the 12, the 18. The 18. Excellent.
18.
Oh,
Hey, we've got you. We've heard you.
Sound.
We've heard you. Very good. Very good.
Hello, Everest.
And do you notice a difference in taste because you're at altitude?
Of course, yes. You can say taste is different. Yeah.
Right. And just a quick thing,
Seem
guys.
to be much.
Oh, go on.
You only get a small amount.
The anticipation.
Yeah.
I think the 18-year-old, it tastes like at sea level. It's really noticed the difference.
Amusingly, you just cut out there when you said, I think the 18-year-old tastes like at sea level, so it could be anything. But guys, just a quick one. We're going to move away from you in a moment, but just to say, how are you feeling? Because it's a 10-day trek in, and you're at altitude now. How are you coping with it? You must be pretty tired.
But we've enjoyed it. Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, just got that. So you've enjoyed every second. Is that what you said?
That's right. Yeah, we've enjoyed every second. It's been a hard trek, but we've enjoyed it.
And is it the first time in Everest for all of you?
Yes, it is. First time for every one of us.
I know from speaking to my...
I think it's been a really good challenge, say first time, and everyone's really thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's a great place to be.
Speaking to our team, who've been training for 9 months, they're really impressed by how well these guys have done.
Excellent. Did you get that, guys? that the main Everest team are really impressed with your efforts to get there.
Thank you very much.
No problem at all. And are you tempted to go further as you look at it? Do you think you'll go back one day and have a go?
Of course we are. Next to the summit.
Yes, well, don't. I think there's all sorts of very good reasons not to at the moment.
Yeah.
One day you will.
Well, what, girl, you know, maybe next day.
Fantastic. Well, look, enjoy it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and well done from all of us in the studio. It's a great achievement to get there.
Yeah, congratulations, guys.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah. We wish you were
All
with
of us,
you.
thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Well done, chaps. Well done.
Cheers with the 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And in terms of the altitude they're at the moment, Ed and Simon, what height is Everest Base Camp?
They're about 5,300 metres.
So that's pretty high, isn't it?
Yeah. You'll be short of breath, and your heart will pump much faster than it normally would, just to get the oxygen through to the muscles, and the fatigue will start to come through the muscles very, very clearly. Also, at altitude, what you can get some is very, very bad headaches. Really, really painful headaches, and I don't know what they're experiencing there, but those would be typical sort of effects of being at that height.
Particularly because they haven't been there very long.
Yeah, but it's taken them 10 days to get there because it needed to take them 10 days to get there. They started off at around about 3,000 metres, and they just slowly climbed each day, allowing their bodies to adjust to the altitude. If we dropped them straight into base camp, they would be very, very sick.
Right, because your body just couldn't cope. We're going from sea level to 5 kilometres in the air, essentially, in that time.
We're not built for that height. We're built for ground level.
Yeah, because there's a perception, isn't there, of looking at base camp as a holiday camp, and it's anything but. It's an achievement to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I've not been there, but it doesn't have hot and cold running water, and the food, I think, is pretty well all pre-packed.
Yeah,
it's not delicious.
No red coats.
But also, we had a trek go up beforehand with some other supporters of the charity, and we had to evacuate one of the trekkers at about 4,500 metres because she got a cerebral edema, and these are not good things to get.
Yeah,
so you've got to treat it with a huge amount of respect.
Yeah. Doesn't have hot and cold running water, but it does have Glenfiddich.
Yeah,
I know which I'd exchange.
Yeah. That's right. Bathe in Glenfiddich.
To be honest, it'd be an interesting way to cleanse yourself.
Well, with any luck, I've just been told in my ear that they're not quite ready yet. But in terms of the setup at base camp, I noticed when they were actually sipping the whiskey there, they were spitting it out. Is that, again, that's the safety thing, I assume, that drinking at altitude?
Well, from what we've been able to discover, drinking at altitude, and also in that sort of harsh environment, it's better to spit. You don't want the alcohol to enter your bloodstream to any great extent, because they have to have their faculties around them. Let's not forget, it is a harsh environment that they're operating in, and if something goes wrong, they need to be able to deal with it.
That's just, I suppose, just in terms of responsible drinking. I mean, we do have the choice, obviously, of spitting these out, but we're not up Everest, and we've worked hard all day. So this is our little reward at the end. I mean, it has been quite a trek for us to get here today, and you know, there's
the escalator wasn't working, so
we
had to walk up
stairs, and you have to take these things into consideration, I think, and this is just reward.
Yeah, and the cameraman's just over there. I don't want to get him.
No. Well, as you say, a huge effort by the guys to get there, and good on them. But happily, now we can switch, hopefully, to the main team, to the actual Walking with the Wounded team. So, with any luck, are you there, fellas?
One of them right in front of you.
Oh, there they are.
Hello, boys.
Can you hear us, fellas? Just give us a wave if you can hear us.
Yeah, we're all good.
Excellent, excellent. So we've got Martin, Jacko, Carl, David and Francis. Hi guys. So Martin, can you just give us a quick kind of breakdown of the last few days, because it's been fairly momentous from what I understand.
Indeed, yeah. past 3 days we've come back down from Everest after our acclimatisation phase. In essence, to wait at base camp and replenish ourselves and wait for a weather window to launch a summit bid. Because of the conditions this year, we've had a significant avalanche fall and a significant amount of danger. Fall. Adult expedition leader has made a call to end the expedition for the bid. Reported.
And how are you feeling about that, Martin and the team? Obviously, a bit of a bitter blow, I imagine.
Yeah, it's a huge blow. You know, I've been training for this for 10 months, and the boys put it this year. It's something that was a possibility. They said never on. There are variables all on expedition of this nature, and the weather is very one of them. But the team, we were on the mountain, we were strong. The climbers that were around us, we were performing at a very fast. It's very frustrating like this happened, but ultimately that's part of mountaineering. It's take on that kind of challenge, and case it was the summit bid wasn't successful, but as we've said, you know, we're young and be here.
I think
oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, Martin, the line's a wee bit crackly, but you know, we made the decision on Saturday that the conditions this year on Everest are incredibly dangerous, and these guys have already been through a hell of a lot by being wounded on the battlefield, and it's absolutely paramount that we as an organisation provide the greatest degree of safety we can for them. And so actually it was a relatively easy decision to take, not to put them back on the mountain again, and I know the 5 of them were gutted because they've worked so incredibly hard to get to where they've got to, but the mountain's not going away, and look a little bit older. You look a little bit older from when I last saw you, particularly you, Martin.
Yeah, Martin's beard's definitely longer.
That's what I did, is his whole head.
And sometimes, fellas, I think the bravest decision is to turn round, isn't it? That's the really strong decision. So, fellas, what we're going to do now is go straight, you'll be distressed to hear, into the whiskey tasting. So I'm going to hand you over to Mark and Jamie, who are the experts, who'll talk you through the process.
Okay, guys, I know you've tasted both of these before because you came and saw us at Whisky Live London back in March. If you want to take the 15-year-old first of all, this is, as I mentioned earlier on, this is one of the most innovative whiskies in Scotland. No one else makes whiskey using the process we use to make the Glenfiddich 15-year-old. So we have the 3 types of cask. We've got bourbon cask, sherry cask, and virgin new American oak, all combined together in that 37,000 litre Solera vat. We never empty the Solera vat. It's always kept at least half full. Flavours, what do you get, guys? Whiskey.
Yeah.
Beard.
Yeah. Ice.
I think they haven't had a wash for a while. I think they probably just get the aroma of each other from it, but that's delicious, isn't it?
I'm always quite surprised with this. I'm always, you know, it's that lovely kind of honeyed, sappy note almost that comes through from this, which it's not present in any of the others. It just delivers this lovely, almost liquid gold type of, if liquid gold could smell of something, it's this, you know, it's got that great, wonderful aroma to it, and hopefully they can pick that up there.
There's some beautiful toffee, caramel, burnt sugar sort of flavour coming through.
It's a lovely balance between all those 3 different casks that have been used.
And fellas, you're back on screen again. We can see you again. So unfortunately, because the line's bad, just give us an idea of what you think by gestures, same as the Pioneers. What do you think?
Well, I don't have a lot on this, but I'm glad to see that.
This is actually my favourite. Out of all the ages of the this is actually my favourite. I absolutely love this. The 50 is it. You know, if I'm ever going to buy a bottle, it's always going to be 50.
Wisey, I'm sure they're going to send you a bottle a month.
Wise words from Wisey. Yeah. Guys, have we got time to do the 19-year-old as well, the age of discovery?
I think so, yes.
Oh, I hope so.
Gents at base camp, if you want to put down the 15-year-old and pick up the last glass, that's the 19-year-old age of discovery, Madeira cask finish, and the name gives it all away. 19 years old, spends most of those 19 years in traditional whisky casks, bourbon and sherry, then the last few months in a Madeira cask. And you get, I describe it as nutty plums, which always gets a snigger from him.
That is delicious, isn't it? Nutty plums or not, that's delicious, yeah.
It's interesting to know, with just that small amount of time in a different cask that's held something from grape, then you're getting this much deeper fruity note just on the edge. It rounds everything off, and it's a perfect follow-on from that 15. It's almost has that enticing flavour of the 15, but brings in this completely different element, which is the Madeira cask, and just delivers the character that's very surprising. And with 19 years age behind it as well, it's an absolutely cracking example.
That is spectacular. That really is spectacular.
That's a good word. Yeah, good word. Any views from base camp?
Yeah, this is exactly. Yeah, I think the 19 it's a bit smoother for me than the 15-year-old. So I'll go with the same with. If I do, I'll buy the 19. A little bit stronger, and much easier, and it's very smooth.
Yeah, I think it's that extra cask maturation gives the palate especially rounds it off. Just the help of those sort of lovely red fruits, if you like, just as you said, rounds off the end of that, makes it a little bit smoother and much more. Well, it's each to their own. There's a Glenfiddich for everyone's style.
I must say, guys, looking at you on the camera, on the monitor there, I'm not seeing a huge amount of spitting out going on.
Yes. No, we are actually. We've become quite.
Oh, there we are. Good.
And I wonder what you've been doing for the last 5 weeks, because all of a sudden you're talking about whiskey with great knowledge.
Guys, your progress has been keenly followed here in the UK. You've been in the news. Everyone's been, sending you their best wishes and everything. And we've got some questions here that have been sent in by people. So I'll rattle through them as 5 questions. The first one's from Stephen in Essex, saying, have you been in touch with your friends and families back home while you've been away on Everest?
So, whilst you've been up here at Everest Base Camp, being in touch with friends and family a little bit more difficult, but we have got a satellite telephone every now and
then. Okay. This is this is from Mark in South Africa. He said, and again, globally, there's been a huge amount of interest in what you've been getting up to. What is next for the team after Everest 2012? Do your charity commitments carry on, or do you return to normal life?
Well, obviously the charity will continue, and there's already talks and preparations for the charity to conduct the addition to 12. So yeah, obviously go on, and new faces and new team. As individuals, I think we'll always continue some way or form to push ourselves, but and the supper will be next.
Grand. And this is from Sally in West Wales, saying, what's your biggest motivating factor to make yourself take such huge challenges in spite of your injuries?
I think really, answering when you've got 2 levels to look at it, individual and strategic. And the strategic, very practical level is to try and encourage others to push within the wounded community, within the British Armed Forces, and indeed NATO. That build is not very difficult, but hopefully these endeavours will encourage us each other. And I think us with the unanimous saying on an in, ultimately will leave. And mirror is have I lived life to the max, and that's pretty much what on an individual level pushes us on.
I think the line is a little bit crackly, but the point Martin made there is we hope that what these guys have done will inspire others in the wounded community, many of whom couldn't actually do the extraordinary thing that these guys have done, but actually they can climb their own Everest, and hopefully by seeing those 5 extraordinary young men, they're going to be inspired to do something.
Absolutely. And as I said, guys, the expedition has had truly global reach. The next question's from Mike Mackenzie in New York, saying, were any of you big whiskey fans before getting involved with this project?
I won't answer.
No, I was going to say, Ed and I walked to North Pole with them. I can answer that one.
I think I could say even before the expedition we were all big ones. I think it's something we picked up from our army, but yeah, better than
But it's only tonight you've truly learned to appreciate it through a professional tutored tasting.
And guys, last question. So we've had South Africa, New York, and now we've got Yorkshire.
Following
the impossible conditions this year, will you return to have another go at Mount Everest?
Hey, it feels this is a bit of an unfinished chapter. So whether it's Everest, Southpole, or whatever, I just feel that within the charity, it feels like a new necessity. Really need to push and not personally, but also for charity so that we can raise money for those guys out there who say every. We'll keep on endeavouring moving forward with challenge.
I think isn't the Glenfiddich motto "One day you will."
Absolutely.
And I think one day we will.
Yeah, yeah, lovely. Fellas, we've got to cut away from you, unfortunately, to finish up. But you've very much been in the news and everyone's thoughts here in the UK and around the world. And a tremendous achievement in some really difficult conditions. So all the best to you and a safe journey home.
See you, boys. See you next week.
Cheers, guys.
See you next
week.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers. See you soon.
Fairly remarkable group of
Indeed.
young men, actually.
Indeed. A tremendous achievement. As I said, defeated by the conditions, really, wasn't it? The sensible decision to turn around and
I think, yeah, I mean, ultimately, you cannot cross that line between brave endeavour into stupidity. And I think had we continued with that, there almost definitely would have been an accident. It possibly would have been fatal. And that wasn't ever our aim. The mountain, as Ed said, is not going anywhere. We can come back another time, and we will conquer it.
No, we've learned so much this time.
Yeah,
the guy leading the expedition, speaking to me on Saturday, said he thinks it's like sending his Sherpas into battle this year, and actually that's way beyond where we need to be. And these guys are there wounded because they've been in battle. So at that stage, it was time to.
And in terms of the actual injuries of the team specifically, what challenges would they have faced?
Well, I think that it's not the big things. You can see those. You know, Jacko had he's got one arm, and he had a special ice pick to climb with. It's the little things. If you have only one arm or your hand isn't working in some of the cases, then just doing up your laces, just doing up buttons, just putting the tent up, doing a zip up in your sleeping bag. All those things become really, really difficult.
And the important point to make there is those things become killers on Mount Everest.
Yeah,
absolutely. Don't they? If your gear's not on properly, if you're not warm enough, potentially you'll die. So it's a huge, huge challenge for the guys.
One of the things that the guys have to learn very quickly is to just get rid of the pride. Realise that people have to help you, and you've just got to let someone do up the zip for you, tuck up your sleeping bag, whatever it is, and actually that if you let others help, then actually you achieve so much more, so much quicker.
Indeed. It's a remarkable undertaking, and strangely enough, in its own way, us getting together here has been, with the team, has been a remarkable thing, because this has been the highest altitude whisky tasting in history, from what I understand. So, and Jamie, yes, indeed. But Jamie, we're not quite finished, because I understand there's one more whisky you want to talk about.
There is one other whisky that we don't have here to taste, but we did send a flask of Glenfiddich whisky from 1975. I actually filled the bottle myself. We've sent that out there to base camp. We're going to be bringing that back, and we will be auctioning that off as part of the endeavours to help Walking with the Wounded. Now, that's not the only thing we're auctioning. Earlier this year, we also auctioned off a 55-year-old special bottling, and that raised £44,000 for the charity alone. And we have another bottle later for later this year as well.
Excellent. So this is very much an ongoing process for Simon and for Ed and for Glenfiddich. This relationship will carry on, and people should keep donating and stay interested in what you're doing.
Yeah, we've got a lot to do in the future, and it's not just about young men and young women with physical injuries, but it's about young people with cognitive injuries as a result of conflict as well. And we've got a lot of work to do, and the more support we're able to get, and people are already being generous, but we need more support, so we appreciate the support of these guys so much.
And it's providing those inspirational role models, isn't it? That's we've all been following the endeavours of the guys, you know, through on the news and the polar expedition as well. As you say, it's showing that actually, you know, they're sort of going beyond limits, and there are things they can very much do and new challenges they can take on.
Completely, and they inspire other people, and I think that was one of the things that's hit us, is some of the messages that have come through, not just from wounded people, but from people in everyday life who thought they couldn't do something, have seen what these guys have done and been inspired. There's one particular story, I don't know if we've got quick time to tell it, but there was not quite sure the age of the lady, but she was certainly very old, and she hadn't left her chair for 5 years. And she sent a note to say that she'd seen these guys, and for the first time she'd taken her steps and opened her front door for 5 years. That's amazing.
You know, it's not just those with disabilities, but I met Jacko actually at the auction, and I walked away after speaking to him for 5 minutes, and walked away as in my head, fully able-bodied, and just thought, my goodness, how do you, as a normal person, conduct your life and moan about the little things in life, the little things that cause you trouble on a daily basis? When I met Jacko and he walked, you know, it wasn't until after the conversation he turned around and I thought, oh, he's an amputee, but it was inspiring just to walk away from someone like that with such an attitude to deliver. So
they've got extraordinary mental fortitude.
Yeah, it's that sort of indefatigable approach, isn't it? Me using long words again, you see. And just to touch on the future very briefly before we finish, you know, Everest this time, conditions impossible. Do you see? I know it'll give you a lot more grey hairs, but do you ever see having another go at Everest? And obviously, you know, hopefully with Glenfiddich supporting you. And is this unfinished business for you as a charity?
Oh yes.
Yeah, I think yes, very definitely. We've learnt a lot from this. When the guys come back, we'll learn more. We do these expeditions to champion these young people and raise awareness, and we're going to continue to do that. We've got some really exciting projects up our sleeves, and we will, you know, we'll go back.
And again, the pole coming up, South Pole.
Yep. That's not actually announced yet. We may or may not be going there.
Sorry, massively indiscreet. Potentially,
maybe at some point in the next year or so, we will hopefully be attempting that.
If there's any comfort, I heard it in my local pub. So it's out there. The information's out there.
Good secret, isn't it?
So yeah, don't worry. And just to sort of finish things off, you've mentored these guys, the Everest crew and the guys who did the North Pole. Did you see a transition in them as well?
Yeah, I think it's not about them, but they get so involved with this. You see and I think we've seen an extraordinary change in them, and that's just a microcosm of what we're doing. It's not our reason for being, but it's fantastic that these guys have had this opportunity and have embraced it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is that there is a camaraderie that now exists, a bunch of people which will never be broken. And I'm privileged to be part part of that, and privileged to have worked and met these guys. I mean, as much as they've changed, I think Ed and I probably changed a bit as well. You know?
Well, thank you for being involved. Thank Glenfiddich as well, involved in this little tasting event. And this is still very much ongoing work, so you can still donate to a pretty extraordinary charity, and of course you can still drink a fairly historic whisky. So
we've got a bit more work to do here.
Yeah.
In the studio as well.
Yeah. So delicious whisky, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. And thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, Monty.
Cheers.